wish the Marrify movement continued success. Once again, I welcome you all to Gimpo Law School, and I hope that this engagement will be a successful one. God bless us all, and thank you.
Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much for the welcome address, Dr. Ajiman Budu Esquire. He's the Dean of the Gimpa Law School. At this point, if the technical team are ready, we'll take just a minute interlude and then we'll be back to continue in this conference. Thank you very much. In the meantime, as we take the brief interlude, if it's possible to see Mari down here, I should be very much grateful. Or Akosia. Thank you. We'll be right back.
That's it. All over me. Yeah. Blessings all over me. All over me. All over me. Blessings all over me. Over. They cover me. Yeah. It's all over me. All over me. All over me.
Representative of the Registrar General's Department, RGD, who is going to touch on strengthening marriage governance, compliance, and public access to verified information. With a round of applause, please help me welcome no other than Edinam Abusa Esquire, Assistant State Attorney at the Registrar General's Department. Welcome, ma'am.
Good evening. So I'll be reading the goodwill message on behalf of the Registrar General of Ghana. The Honorable Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Honorable Dr. Agnes Namomolati, our special guest of honor, learned members of the bench and bar, esteemed partners and conveners of the Marriage Governance Conference 2026, esteemed members of the clergy and leaders of religious and traditional bodies, colleagues from the Registrar General's Department, members of the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. Good evening. I bring you warm greetings from the Registrar General's Department under the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice as we return for the third time as a partner to Marry Rights Ghana Limited in convening this marriage governance conference. It remains, I confess, an unusual kind of partnership for an institution more accustomed to solemnizing unions rather than entering into them. But it is one that my department is genuinely proud to keep renewing. Last year, under the theme Legal Love, Recognized Rights, Rethinking Marriage Governance for a Future of Accountability, Digital Inclusion, and Cultural Harmony, this conference gave us one of its sovereign conversations yet, in which my department was honored to participate in the dialogue by the panel on fake marriage documents, new schemes, and strategies. We heard in stark terms how gaps in verification are being exploited, how forged certificates, irregular registrations, and impersonated marriage officers can be used not in service of genuine unions, but as instruments for immigration applications, insurance claims, and other schemes that have nothing to do with the sanctity this institution exists to protect. As many of you know, the Registrar General serves as the principal registrar of marriages and is the custodian of the nation's civil ordinance marriage data under the Marriages Act 1884 to 1985, Cap 1 to 7. That custodianship rests on a simple statutory chain. Registrars and marriage officers across the country are required to transmit certified copies of every entry in their marriage register to the Registrar General's Department. It is a duty that in practice is not always dutifully met, and that gap in transmission is itself part of the vulnerability we are here to address. Because the mandate is not merely to hold records, but to ensure that when a document declares two people married, that declaration can be trusted by the couple, by their families, by the institutions they will one day rely on, and by the state itself. We must be honest about where we stand as a country. Ghana's marriage administration system, as it exists today, lacks modern verification. Records remain dispersed. Confirming whether a marriage officer is validly gazetted, whether a certificate is authentic, or whether a party already has a subsisting marriage on record, too often depends on manual searches, goodwill, and time we do not always have. That gap is precisely what fraudulent actors have learned to exploit, and it is precisely the gap this year's theme asks us to close. Digitalization for us is not a convenience, it is a compliance tool. It is what allows prudent investigation to happen quickly, verifying a party's capacity to marry, confirming the authenticity of documents placed before an officer, and flagging inconsistencies before they harden into fraud. Done properly, digital verification does not merely catch bad actors after the fact, it makes their schemes far harder to attempt in the first place. It is in this spirit that the Registrar General's Department continues to press for and advocates for a seamless, centralized database of marriage records, one that key institutions can access directly for verification, banks conducting due diligence, immigration authorities assessing spousal applications, insurers underwriting policies, and religious and traditional bodies confirming the standing of those who come before them to officiate. Verification that takes seconds, drawn from a trusted source, closes the very gaps fraud depends on. Over the past year, my department has intensified its sensitization of marriage registrars and of pastors and ministers seeking to become licensed marriage officers on the standards, documentation, and conduct the law requires of them. The most important safeguards often come earliest. An informed, properly gazetted officer at the point of solemnization, well before the certificate ever reaches a bank counter, an insurer's desk, or an embassy window. It is against this backdrop that I extend, on behalf of the Registrar General's Department, our warmest congratulations to Marry Rights Ghana on the launch of the Marrify app. We have watched with genuine appreciation the steady work that has led to this moment, including the compilation of the database of licensed and gazetted marriage officers in marriage venues in partnership with the Ghana Publishing Company Limited. This will help the public verify who is and who is not permitted to officiate a Christian ordinance marriage in this country. Marrify represents a natural next step in that journey, and we welcome it as the kind of innovation things marriage governance in Ghana. We emphasize that public access to verified marriage information should not be a privilege reserved for those who know where to look, but a standard that is available to every Ghanaian who needs it. That is a goal my department shares without reservation, and we look forward to exploring in the proper time and manner how platforms such as this might interpret with the department's own digitalization efforts as well as with other relevant institutions. Distinguished guests, the work before us is ultimately about one thing: restoring public faith in the institution of marriage administration in this country. Faith that a certificate presented is genuine. Faith that the officer who signed it was entitled to. Faith that when the law says two people are married, that fact can be trusted without a fight. That faith has been tested by the schemes we spoke of last year, and it will take partnerships exactly like this to rebuild it, one verified record at a time. Allow me once again to express my department's gratitude to our special guest of honor, the Honorable Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Agnes Momolati, for gracing this occasion, to our partners for a partnership that continues to bear real fruit, and for the vision and persistence that has brought the Marrify app to launch. To every participant gathered here for the third edition of the Marriage Governance Conference, the Registrar General's Department remains as ever a willing partner in this work. We look forward to another year of fruitful collaboration and to the day when every marriage record in Ghana can be trusted at a glance. Congratulations once again to Marry Right Ghana on the launch of Marrify. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. We can do better for her. Miss Edinam Abusa Esquire. She's the Assistant State Attorney, Registrar General's Department. Thank you very much, Madam. At this point, we are continuing. But before we do that, please, I think we would have to give honor to those who honor belongs to, or what do they say? Yeah, so at this point, please, I think with a standing ovation, we want to no other. My own auntie. She is the minister in charge of gender. Okay. I need to take this really right so that I'm not held contempt. When you are in the midst of lawyers, you need to be careful. And judges, when you're careful, the contempt at Chunti. Let me do my references very well. So please, with a standing ovation, let's welcome the Honorable Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Honorable Dr. Agnes Momolati. Welcome, Honorable Minister. It's a pleasure to have you here. And this gives me an impression, a formed impression, of course, that you are a listening Minister of State. We've had, quite a number of people come through, the first year, second year, and third year. And to have you is really much of an honor to us. Thank you, ma'am, for coming. Right. Please, I would also want to do another acknowledgement. That is the Vice President of the Greater Accra Regional Bar. That is Andrew Apau Obeng Esquire. If he's here, please give us a wave. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. Please, I would also want to acknowledge the presence of Sheikh Rashid Odoy, member of the advisory board for the office of the National Chief Imam. Sheikh Rashid Odoy, if you're here, please. Sheikh, please, we'll kindly ask you to come join us at the front row, please. Perhaps you would want to join my senior brother. Yeah. Sheikh, it's a pleasure to have you. Right. I think at this moment would pause for the acknowledgement and then move over to the next item here. As and when the other dignitaries do join us, obviously we'll let audiences know. I want to humbly acknowledge the presences of all our online viewers. We've done this with you over the period, first and second year, and we are happy to have you online as well. So hi to all our online listeners and viewers. At this point, we're going on to welcoming the representative for the managing director and CEO of Ghana Publishing Limited to touch on their role of public information and access to law in strengthening marriage governance here in Ghana. And to help us to do this would be my own brother, Mr. Edmond Kwachino. Please, let's give him a round of applause. Adam, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of the Managing Director of Ghana Publishing Company Limited, Mr. Nana Kwesi Boete Esquire. Honorable Minister, all protocol observed. I don't want to switch off and get accused of contempt. It's a very delicate situation. Honorable Minister, it is a privilege to stand before you to be part of the marriage conference and to especially celebrate the launch of the Marrify database, a platform that will allow any citizen in a single search to confirm whether a venue, church, or marriage officer is duly licensed to celebrate marriages in Ghana. I congratulate Marrify Ghana Limited on this innovation and thank you for your confidence placed in Ghana Publishing as a partner for this national undertaking. For years, information on venues and officials lawfully authorized under the Marriages Act 1884 to 1885, Cap 127, as amended, has existed, but chiefly in the Gazette and registry files out of ordinary reach. Couples, families, institutions relying on marriage certificates have had no easy way to confirm that the ceremony behind it was properly licensed. That gap has left room for impersonation, unlicensed operators, and disputed certificates. Good governance of any regulated activity rests on a clear view, a clear law, a diligent regulator, and the pillar we often undervalue, public access to what the law says and whom it has authorized. When that information is locked away, compliance is a matter of trust. When it is published and searchable, the public itself becomes a partner in its enforcement. As the state printer and publisher of the Gazette, Ghana Publishing statutory notices already give licensed venues and officers the force of public notice in law. Our role in this project has been to make that official record available to Marrify Ghana Limited, moving it from the printed page of the Gazette into the palm of every citizen's hand. The benefits reach far. Protection for couples, fair standing for properly licensed venues and officials, lighter touch compliance, and a stronger public trust in an institution central to family life and social stability. Access to the law is access to justice. And this database is, in a real sense, access to justice infrastructure. Honorable Minister, Ghana Publishing remains committed to this partnership and to the wider principle it represents, that information we are entrusted to publish should be genuinely usable by the citizens it protects. I congratulate Marrify Ghana Limited once again and wish the Marrify database every success. Thank you, and God bless our homeland, Ghana.
Thank you. We can do better for him. We can do better for Adam Kwachinu. He is the representative for the managing director and CEO for the Ghana Publishing Limited. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. At this point, we'll take again, and I'm doing this tweaking so that we can afford everybody or every speaker the opportunity to. All right, so technical team just drew my attention. All right, so would at this point make way for our Honorable Minister for Gender, Children, and Social Protection, Honorable Dr. Agnes Namomolate, to give us her speech.
Thank you very much. The Chief Executive Officer and Management of Marrify Ghana, distinguished representatives of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, traditional and religious leaders, members of the clergy and Islamic community, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. That's better. It is a pleasure and an honor to join you on this important occasion, marking the official launch of the Marrify app. On behalf of the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection, I commend Marrify Ghana for this initiative and for recognizing the importance of strengthening transparency, accountability, and public confidence in marriage administration in Ghana. Marriage is more than a legal arrangement between two individuals. It is an institution that has important social, cultural, and economic importance for individuals, children, families, and communities. Strong families contribute to social stability, responsible citizenship, and peaceful communities. It is therefore important that efforts to strengthen marriage and family life begin not only after challenges emerge, but also through preventive measures that promote informed decisions, mutual respect, responsibility, and healthy relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, the Marrify app is particularly relevant in this regard by providing a platform through which individuals can verify marriage venues, churches, pastors, and imams. The initiative responds to an important need for reliable information before couples enter into marriage. Such verification can help protect prospective couples from the consequences of engaging with persons or institutions that may not have the appropriate authority to solemnize marriages. This initiative also complements the broader efforts of government to promote responsible family life, protect the rights and dignity of women, children, and vulnerable persons, as well as strengthen social protection systems. The Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection recognizes that harmonious family living requires more than the formal recognition of marriage. It requires relationships founded on respect, communication, trust, shared responsibility, and non-violence. For these reasons, the ministry continues to support interventions that promote positive family relationships, prevent gender-based violence, protect children, and strengthen the capacity of families to provide safe and supportive environments for their members. Our work on gender equality and women's empowerment is equally important because healthy families are built on relationships in which every member is treated with dignity and has the opportunity to participate meaningfully in decisions that affect the household. We must recognize the important role of men and boys in building healthy families, promoting positive masculinities, responsible fatherhood, and constructive communication between partners is essential to preventing violence and creating homes where women, men, children can live with respect and security. Our engagement with traditional and religious leaders is also important. These leaders remain influential in shaping values, attitudes, and behavior within our communities. Their leadership can provide and promote responsible marriage practices, peaceful conflict resolution, respect for humanity and human dignity, and the protection of women and children from violence and abuse. Distinguished guests, the ministry's mandate is anchored on the promotion of gender equality, the protection of children, and the strengthening of social protection. These responsibilities are closely connected to the well-being of families. When families are stable and supportive, children are more likely to grow in safe environments. Women and men are better able to participate in economic and social activities, and communities are better positioned to resolve differences peacefully. The launch of the Marrify app, therefore, presents an opportunity to encourage respective or prospective couples to approach marriage with greater awareness and responsibility. It is equally an important opportunity to remind institutions and individuals involved in marriage administration of the importance of maintaining the highest standard of integrity, professionalism, and accountability. I encourage Marrify Ghana to continue working closely with relevant government institutions, religious bodies, traditional authorities, and other stakeholders to ensure that the platform provides accurate, reliable, and regularly updated information. The effectiveness of such a platform will ultimately depend on public confidence in the information it provides and the cooperation of the institutions responsible for marriage registration and solemnization. As we launch Marrify today, let us reaffirm a shared commitment to building families founded on mutual respect, responsibility, equality, and peaceful coexistence. Let us strengthen our collective efforts to ensure that every person, regardless of gender, age, or social status, can live in a family and community environment free from violence, exploitation, and discrimination. On this note, I once again congratulate the leadership of Marrify Ghana on the official launch of the Marrify app. I commend all partners and stakeholders who have contributed to this initiative and encourage the public to make responsible use of the platform. I wish Marrify Ghana every success in this important endeavor. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Please, let's give her a round of applause. Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you, Honorable Minister for Gender, Children, and Social Protection, for your speech. Honorable Dr. Agnes Namomolate, thank you. Nyuma Jobo. Right, at this point, we're coming to a very interesting bit of this whole conference here today. It's once again, for those who have just joined us, I want to welcome you to the Marriage Governance Conference 2026 and the official launch of the Marrify app. I earlier mentioned this year's theme is driving digital innovation, and we're here today, Thursday, 27th of August, 2026. And we're here at the Dr. Daniel Macaulay Moot Court Room here in Gimpa. Thank you for joining us. At this point, would like to reach out or call our very own, our brother's co-founder or founder rather. Yeah, for sure. I'm being careful because he's also a senior lawyer. Contempt at show. So he's going to touch on who was really married. And this is a very interesting question. Who was really married inside Ghana's marriage and divorce record crisis, and why Marrify is the fix. And to help us to do this digest and answer all these mind-boggling questions, please help me welcome no other than the founder for Marriage Governance Conference and the Marrify app, my own brother, Dennis Ajay Jumo Esquire. So he's, should I have to add that other designation?
Don't add any other designation. We are far behind time. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Welcome again. Welcome your ladyships. Some people are here who saw me as a student and now I'm a lawyer. So they look at our faces and they know you from the beginning. So may we move to our slides. So I start my conversation by telling you a story. And these stories I'm about to tell you are stories that happen to real life people. The first story. A woman met a man in 2013. They fell in love. When he met the man said that, you know what? I've been married before, but I'm divorced. The woman says, can I see your divorce certificate? The man produces a divorce certificate from the Kwabin District Court. The woman says, I now believe you are divorced. To affirm that I'm divorced, my wife have even left the child with me. And so I've brought my child to the house. And so this woman takes this child in, the stepdaughter in, leaves with the stepdaughter. In 2014, they get married and had children with the man, 2 twins, lovely twins. They relocated to the United States. And in 2018, the man passed away in the United States. When the man passed away in the United States, the man said that, told the wife at that time that in case I pass away, I want to be brought back and buried in Ghana. The man said, because my husband said this to me, I'll bring my husband into Ghana. Brought the husband, placed the husband at transitions. Then immediately the husband, buried, the body arrived in Ghana. The ex-wife says, I have not been divorced. 1 week celebration, ex-wife organizes we have 1 week celebration. Current wife organizes 1 week celebration. Ex-wife then gets in touch, quote unquote, ex-wife in quotes, by the way, in touch with the Abusuapeni of the man. And the Abusuapeni, the family gets divided. The Abusuapeni is the one, the man is believed to come from a town in Cape Coast, but they said their actual back, so for lack of a better word, comes from a certain town in a certain village. The Abusuapeni of that village comes up and support the quote unquote ex-wife. The wife says, no, I cannot understand what is happening. She takes the ex-wife to court. And when she takes the ex-wife to court and basically says that, you know, she's the sole wife, she should be the one that should organize the funeral for the husband. Nobody should be calling herself the wife. The ex-wife counterclaims and says that, no, I have not been divorced. I am the wife. And that my husband stole my daughter and brought my daughter to you. So the court should make an order for my daughter, for me to talk to my daughter. The wife says, no, you were divorced. And they present a divorce certificate issued by the Kwabin District Court in 2012. The court held the case, and the court said, and the wife's case was that when I was in Ghana with my husband, you never complained. Everybody saw me with my husband. I moved everywhere with my husband. You are aware that I was moving away. You never came to a house to even challenge it. I have been married. He brought pictures of the marriage. The court had to make a determination as to who is the wife. The court came to a conclusion that, you know what? The divorce that you got from Kwabin District Court, from the look of things, the man made a mistake. The divorce decree that they produced in court had another name of the woman called Paulina Osei Kufuor. Paulina Osei Ampof. Instead of Osei Kufuor. The woman said, no, that name is not my name. I was not divorced. The court goes ahead and says that, you know what? There's a problem with the name. And in any event, all of you are staying in Accra. So why did the man leave you to go and file a suit in Kwabin to get an order? Fast forward, the court rules that the ex-wife was still married. And that the new wife, rather, is the one who was not married. And when the new wife said that the ex-wife has been going to the houses, the court then orders the new wife that he should stay away from the properties because she is not the wife. Because the ex-wife's position was that I built these properties before you came to enjoy. Because as a fact, I married him in 2009. He said he got a divorce. The court held that the divorce was not proper. The court even went ahead to say that, you know what, there's even a decision which says that district court cannot grant district, divorce in the district court. Now look at the injustice to this new man who trusted a court document. Mistakes did not come from the new woman. It came from the people. And at the end of the day, this woman who the husband died in their hands took care of all the children, and they are of different children. And fast forward on this particular case, the dead man's body is still in the morgue as we speak for over 8 years. Since 2018 till to date, he's still in the morgue, and we are fighting over who is the wife. The Busiatu is fighting as who's a proper Busia penny to bury. The court has so this is a crisis. But whichever way it is, that's the first story about a woman who committed her life, trusted a court document, for only to be told later on that the district court did not have the power to issue the divorce. Story number one. You see the injustice. Let's move on to story number two. Story number two. A Muslim woman lives with a Muslim man for 34 years. And after living with this man for 34 years, the man passes away. The Muslim woman says that, you know what? I want to go and apply for LA. And they said, you know, for you to apply for LA, the law says that you ought to have been registered as a wife. Marriage has to be registered. And then because you did not register it, go to court for extension of time so that it will grant you the permission to stand in the state of a spouse so that you can apply for the LA. The Muslim woman, after 34 years, goes to court and the judge says, you know what? 34 years is really a long time. So 34 years is really a long time. And that we cannot grant you any penalty. Even the man is dead. And the requirement of the law is that you have to register it with the man. So in law, that Muslim woman which I'll call Matamalam, the wife of Malam, is not a wife in law. Although we, the society, acknowledge Matamalam as the wife, we acknowledge her as a wife for 34 years, sacrificed her entire life, building a life with her, only to be told after the death of the husband that she is not a wife because the law says that because she ought to have registered within 1 week and she failed to register it, maybe she did not even know till she was told to go and try and seek extension of time so as to apply for LA. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my second story, and quite clearly, it reveals the injustice within our system. And the court has held that, you know, the registration is what gives validity to the law. I still hold the position that this law is very unjust, it's unconstitutional. Hope that one day we can get it out of the way. All right, I'm on 4P. Whichever way it is. Now, let's move on to the next slide. And that's what tells story, and I'll give you a fourth and a fifth. And these things are replete with it. There are a lot of cases like that, but nobody has bothered to even pay attention. Now, the test story is a very interesting story. And all these cases are cases that we have read. And the funny bit about these things that, and I tell people, I tell my students that when I was in law school, I was more preparing for the exams that when I'm reading the case again, I'm actually wondering whether it's a case that I read. Okay, because the first looks new. Okay, now this is a very interesting case. And this case, in 1950, a Reverend Theophilus Kwadwo Seche, who was a Presbyterian minister who was in a Chimota school, tutor, told a colleague, Presbyterian minister, that they should bless the marriage of the wife with one Gracie Atiase. They go ahead and celebrate the marriage, and you know, as time went on, I think things did not work out. And when they did the marriage ceremony, the Reverend minister proceeded to give him an ordinance marriage certificate. Once the woman has a marriage certificate, the woman thinks that she's married. Issues come up, and the funny bit of it is that the man first said he admitted to the marriage and later on filed an amendment to go and say that he's not even married. At first he said he was married, but later on he realized there's a loophole. Now files it and he cries, he's not married. And the court said that because the requirements of the marriage, i.e., the publication of bans and the issuance of the lines did not apply, the marriage certificate that the woman felt that based on that he was married under ordinance was no marriage. So you may be holding a marriage certificate, but because the requirement, because you need a license before you marry, the court held this after 9 years and 3 children. The court held that Grace Atias was not a wife. Although the issue related to the jurisdiction of the court, but in terms of the facts relating to marriage, after 9 years spent with the man, having 3 children, and because and this is a Presby church. So I always tell people that it's not about how long the church has remained or how powerful the church is. Always have to have these challenges. Now, there are also instances where people have forged fake divorce certificates, gotten married to people unknown to their wives. And these are cases in Daisy Obri. The woman was in London, got to know that she has been divorced. The man goes ahead and marries another woman. The new man trusts that he has been divorced, but the woman later on comes and says, I've never been divorced. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the injustices people are suffering. These are real life situations people go through. Matters not whether you're a Muslim or a Christian or a traditionalist or a Hindu. Now, the important aspect of all these is that you could clearly see that whether you're married doesn't just decide the wedding or the wedding ceremony. It also decides matters of spousal property. Imagine in the first case where the woman has now been told that she's not a wife. The court has ordered her not to even come close to the properties. Meanwhile, when the husband was there, she was going through a house. And as I understand, the properties were in Trasaco and Villaggio, so you understand why the fight is on. Issues about will, burial, funerals and burial. That lumber cases. I want to be the soul. The wills and intercession. These issues, which may look very simple, there are certain consequential effects of these cases, which we have to bring to your attention, why we need a record. Now, let's also face the reality. The Ghana Statistical Service, when it did the census in 2021, said that 80% of Ghanaians who are married have not registered their marriage. So 8 out of 10 Ghanaians who are married have not registered their marriage. And if you are not registered, because we always say that we are not in court for the truth, but we are in court for the evidence. And bear in mind that in marriage, the requirement of registration is important for Islamic marriage. The requirement of documentation is important for civil ordinance. So 8 out of 10, maybe the 8 out of 10, majority of them happens to be customary marriage. Now, if you look at the statistics that the Ghana Statistical Service produced as a result of its survey, its census that it did, and that's very interesting, I always say it. And the data shows that out of married but not registered, there's 3.6 million females, and always the females are more. The females who are married are more than the males who are married. So it's not always 1:1. It means that some men are married to 2 or 3. Okay, so 3.6 women says they are married. Only 3.2 men say they are married. So the extra 400,000, no, it means that they have been shared amongst additional men to tell you that marriage is always not 1:1. Now, for those who have registered their marriage, 800,000 are women, 600,000 are men. And there are certain people who are also living informally. They are not married, but they are cohabiting. And that is how the data. And about 4.5 million have never been married. The men. 4.5 million says we have never been married. 3.5 women says they have never been married. So if we are talking about marriage records, for a starting point, it means that we are talking about not those who are not registered. We are looking about 3.6 million, 3.2 million people. So for those who are not registered, we are looking at a number of 6.8 million Ghanaians who are married but have not registered it, which we have to capture them on our database, assuming that admitting that the statistical service is correct. 6.8 million Ghanaians who are married, we have no records of their marriage. There's no records. And those who have registered, about 1.62 million Ghanaians who are married and have registered their marriage are those who have registered. So they are supposed to be records for these 1.62 million Ghanaians based on the Ghana Statistical Service. Now, and this is the regional distribution of registration. You will clearly see that in all of it, Greater Accra region has a lot of registered, about 60% unregistered. But let's look at Northern region. 97%, those who are married have not registered. In the Northern region, have not registered. Only 2% have registered. Savannah region, 3% have registered. Northeast, 4.4%. And this data tells you that there's a lot of work to be done. Because the married data It's an ancestry data, it's an inheritance data, it's a property data. And this is the data that's been given about for since 2021, which says that 80%, majority of people have registered, with 40% of those married in Accra have registered, 60% have not registered. But in total, 80% of Ghanaians who have registered, are married, have not registered it. It means that there are no documentation for them. The law further requires that local assembly is the one in charge of registration of Islamic marriage and Islamic divorce. Now, one of the requirements of Islamic marriage is also licensing imam who has to swear to an affidavit. And this law, believe you me, has been there since 1907. And our database, when we launch, we will let you know that we had the data of licensing imam far back in 1932. But as we speak now, the Minister of Interior is not even aware, was not aware till we told him that he is the one supposed to license Islamic priests, which I know Assembly Press is waiting for Islamic priests to be presented so that they can take their money and gazette them. The Minister of Interior is also different from the local government. So you could see that there is lack of coordination. Ministry of Interior, local government, even at the local government, one is principal marriage officer, one is the DC himself. This is the requirement of the law. As in why we still have this law, I have no idea. Now, whenever I talk about Islamic marriage and the registration to the system, we know for a fact that systems are not put in place to register. So if you're Islamic marriage, you move to them to that you want to register, they end up registering you under customary marriage, which is a crisis. Now, and whenever I say that, quick to add that, the church says our own is different. I'm sorry to tell you that your own is to be more disappointed. So, under the ordinance, the civil marriage is part 3. The law requires you have to have a licensed venue. Okay. A license. Okay. You have to have a licensed venue and a licensed marriage officer for churches. The licensed venue is done by the local assembly. This time, not the DC, not the marriage officer, but the local assembly. For those of us who have assisted churches to register, that is more like with the building department. And they will give you a letter to now bring to assembly press. There is no coordination between assembly press and the assembly. And there's no requirement for you to furnish the RGD with a copy. So RGD, which is the principal marriage officer, has no clue of any church that has been licensed. So that now if you write to RGD that I want to find out whether a church has been licensed, they then request the church to bring its gazette so that it verifies from assembly press, because it doesn't have any database for it. And assembly press, ladies and gentlemen, is under the Ministry of Government Communication or Ministry of Information, which is also different one way or the other. So while the venue is being licensed by the local assembly and dealing with assembly press, the marriage officers have to be licensed by Attorney General. And the interesting bit for those of us who have spent time with that, after RGD submits the names to them, they did verification at the drafting department, they will give you a letter again, and you go and take a gazette from assembly press. There is no requirement on the part of assembly press to send a copy of the gazette to both the Attorney General or RGD. So AG would have appointed marriage officers, but AG does not have any database of gazettes. They'll have database of they'll have a file of the list of people that they have written letters for, but not the gazette. Then, when it comes to the marriage itself, it can be done in 4 places. It can be done at the local assembly, it can be done at the church, it can be done at the court, and it can be done at the RGD. Now, everybody is doing whatever they want. Now, new assemblies have been created, and when they go to submit their returns, some of the assemblies sometimes have not put in place systems to even take these returns. So we are marrying everybody, but there are no database for it. Now the court also acts different. The district court magistrate by law is a registrar of marriage that can perform marriages. The court is doing it. So when you go to the system, you realize that sometimes they leave it for the registrar of the court, who is not the principal marriage registrar, to be doing the issuance and everything, and they celebrate the marriage. Now, the attention of the judiciary is more on judgment and case, because that's what their adjudication is more of their focus than marriage. So sometimes when you talk to the M&E people, their concentration will be with the judges to make a return of the number of judgments that they have given, as against the number of marriages that they celebrated. So we have about 5 ministries that are dealing with marriage and various aspects of the marriage. Judiciary is doing its thing, local assembly is doing its thing, RGD is doing its thing, Attorney General is doing its thing, Assembly Press is doing its thing, and there's no coordination. And that's why it becomes difficult to get to some of the information. And divorce decrees are being issued, which we'll talk about it later on. Let's move on. So several agencies, so we'll say that marriage barco institutions baby. But But remember that the marriage affects life. It's not like you're not dealing with land. You're dealing with people's future. Okay. Now, with regards to the courts, and I dare to pay attention. Now, in terms of the courts, there are about 225 district courts. And all of them, by operation of law, have the power to celebrate civil marriages because they are marriage officers. Now, so imagine 225 district court, every magistrate court giving the power to celebrate marriages, so not submitting a return. You can imagine. When it comes to divorces, these three courts, there are 128 courts now. There are 104 circuit courts now. And there are 225, all having jurisdiction to grant divorce. And I have a judge friend of mine who went to the divorce court and got frustrated because he felt that divorce, there's not too much work, and he goes there and every day the court lists plenty cases, and he was demoralized. So there's a lot of work being done on divorce. And if you ask any lawyer on a week to week basis, you have one or two people calling you to ask you about divorce one way or the other. Okay. Now there is no centralized database for this. Everybody's acting in silos. And the amazing bit of it is that even for the churches, are also doing their thing. So with the Catholic Church, the Archdiocese of Sunyane is different from the Archdiocese of Kumasi. The Archdiocese of Kumasi is different from the Archdiocese of Accra. And all of us are involved. So what is that? The principal marriage officer, when time he goes to the embassy, he writes a letter. If they have to cross-check or verify a certificate, he writes back to the church to confirm whether they duly issued it. If it's from the court, they write back. Than for us having a central database. Now, as our mind is more or less, let's move on to the next slide. You know, our mind is more often on the end product, which is the certificate. But there have been instances where, can you go back? Okay. The steps, the 5 steps. Okay, let's go. So there are instances where the courts have said that if you don't also go to the steps, so there has to be publication of bans. In terms of civil marriages, who is keeping the record of publication of bans? The law says that you put it on the notice board of the district assembly or the church. So if somebody goes to Boga and marries a woman over there and there's a publication of bans in another marriage, I don't think the border person will know. There's lack of digitization of our publication of bans. Okay. In terms of even customary notices that has to be posted with the law, because remember that the law on ordinance marriage was done originally in 1884. That's why the current act even tells you 1884 to 1985. For TikTok generation, things have changed. But everything is still stuck in there. It's about publication on the notice. So if you went to marry under civil ordinance and there was no publication of bans, I'm sorry, you may have a problem. If you went to marry and you did not get a proper license, there will be a problem. So you may be holding the certificate all right, but you may still have pass no way. And that is the reality. Where are the records for publication of bans? Where are the records for the digitization of the notices that have been published? As well as the license venue. Till we worked on it, there was no system where you can simply go there to have it because lack of proper record keeping had happened. And that's against the celebration, the requirement of celebration. Now, let's move ahead to the next slide. Unfortunately, most women are made to believe that ordinance marriage is the best. It's one-on-one. So that now it's me and you. But ordinance marriage happens to be, as I would say, the unforgiving one. If you miss the requirement. And if not for customary marriage, and sometimes, I know some justices are here, sometimes they look at the case and they will not allow you to run away just because of technicality. You'll find ways. There was one judgment the judge gave. I know the judge personally, and I went to him and said, my Lord, this one day, you look at the justice part to ignore and try to do some assaulting on the law just to make sure that the man does not run away, that he's not married. The man went to go and say that I think his complaint was that there was no venue license. My Lord did something on the law and still stuck in that you are still married. But whichever way it is, the point I'm making, and there are also conflicting decisions on the court. But the marriage ordinance one happens to have more requirements, compliance requirements, as compared to customary marriage, which even if you don't register, it is still valid. And in Ghana, majority of people marry too. They marry customary marriage on Thursday, and by Friday they have moved to ordinance. And the church has also been part of it, where it encourages that you have to do church ceremony. But remember that some of the church ceremony you may do may be a blessing and not a civil ordinance, an ordinance marriage or a civil marriage, which is a state marriage. And I think we have mentioned the point that you may be holding a certificate, but it may still not be required. Now, the funny bit of it, that when we were doing this research, we came across an old law, which is Cap 130, which is the Marriage Records. Can we move ahead? Marriage Records, Care of Irregularities and Omissions Ordinance 1918. So, for people, the Abejimibre people, you know, those sometimes where people say that the old people were Abejimibre, the people of old were complying more with the law than the people of new. So they had to pass a whole ordinance just to make sure that they correct records. And this as far back as 1918. And that was Cap 130. Now, on the issue of publication of bans, remember that if you cannot see it, you cannot object it. If your partner is going to marry again by sorcery or incantation, how would you know? So the public cannot object. So there is a need for digitization, which now brings in the bigger issues. Now, one of the issues that, let's move ahead. I think I mentioned this. And you cannot object to what you cannot see. Let's go ahead. Let's move. Now, one of the things that we also saw with regards to the records of the court is basically, yes, we have seen an instance where after divorce, before the court will issue a divorce certificate, it will cancel the marriage certificate. Now, when the court cancels the marriage certificate, the divorcee don't have time to go and tell the court, the check that gave him the certificate that the certificate has been cancelled. So if that certificate is brought for verification and they go back to the church, it will still be valid. Meanwhile, the court has cancelled that certificate. So there's a need for us to have a system where when a certificate is cancelled officially, the issuing authority that issued the certificate must be aware of it. There's no database for cancelling of certificates, which we have to address. It's the individual that keeps his own paper. And the state does not have time. And remember, in almost all the cases that these certificates have been caught, it has been in personam action. The state does not have the system for the state to catch people unless somebody went to go and switch or snitch on the person. So it's oftentimes the woman going to complain or the man going to complain that the person who you are married, I've married the person before, but there's no system. And as we said, the best evidence rule, the best evidence that you can have when it comes to some of these is paper. And when it gives presumption of marriage and all those issue of regularity, among other factors. So the data problem, as we have seen, is not just a data problem, it's also a justice problem, where you may have a right but no remedy, where you may have been deceived, whether intentionally or unintentionally, but at the end of the day, the lives that it affects are real. So once again, what do we recommend? We think that we have to empower one agency to handle it. Either we are going to empower RGD, where we give RGD more power so that it will have its officers at the various places that we celebrate marriages, and they have the power to cancel licenses of churches that do not submit, have power to sanction. It will be very difficult. How do we also work with the judiciary to set up a certain record for marriages and divorce so that you can easily be able to tap in from that side? And how do we digitize bans to make sure that there's a website which you show the face of the person? Because I ended up attending school with somebody who carries my exact name. And so you may have Prince Charles, but somebody's also called Prince Charles. So, but if you have your face on it, because the objective of publication of bans is for us to object. And when we see your picture, we can be able to know that you're going to marry again. So I can submit an objection to it. There's no website for publication of bans, so it actually has to be published on a notice board. What if somebody, goes and takes what you have pasted on a notice board off? Ladies and gentlemen, with this crisis, we decided to carry on the wildest idea to say that, you know what, why don't we build a database? Because at the end of the day, we are a nation of talkers but less of doers. And if you are complaining about the power to do, then you may have to act. So we set up to build a database for marriage and divorce records. And by building this database for Marrify, and which my colleague will continue, it's a database that allows you to check the venue. At least check the venue. In case you don't find it, ask the church, can they produce their venue? And because our partner is at Assembly Press, we can easily verify whether it's a fake gazette or not. Same for like the pastor. It's not about the power of the pastor. How the pastor is powerful. He's a prophet, he's an archbishop, he's a bishop. Check whether he's gazetted. And now you have ability to verify that gazetted information. For those of us who are already in it, that's why it became tricky. Because now if you check and it says no, what do you do? But at least it's better to know that your car has a problem than to assume your car has no problem and be stopped on the Kumasi highway. And if you know your problem, you know how to fix it. But what people will be willing to fix, that is not our problem. That is your problem, which I believe you will find ways of fixing it. And then the marriage records and ability to verify. So after getting to know the crisis, that's what we think Marrify comes to fix. At least now, you'll be willing to concentrate on the license of the pastor and the venue than just the photography, the bibliography, the DJ, the ring, and things which are not relevant for the purpose of my marriage, but our current dispensation, we are very much interested in it. So I'll end by saying that the next victim of marriage or divorce record crisis is out there right now. We saw how it affected Anajued. We saw how it affected such and such right now. And that can be you or me. And you're about to build a life, or you have started building a life on a marriage or divorce document that has no value in law. And that is painful. It is for this reason. That is why my team and I decided to build Marrify. I'm grateful for your time, and thank you very much.
Wow. Let's give him a round of applause. What an expose this has been. Thank you very much, Lawyer Dennis, Ajay Jumo, and the team, the Marriage Governance Conference, Marrify team. Thank you very much. And also the Marriage Governance Conference team for putting this together for the past 3 years. And I keep learning every year. I mean, when I'm here emceeing this. So Dennis, I think that after this, we'll have to come back and then do some discussions. I need to check my records as well from so tomorrow. I mean, yeah, these are very, you know, I mean, I was just sitting back and listening to this. I'm like, wow. And the cases, I think that it will be unfortunate for us. Right. Thank you very much, Dennis Ajay Jumor Esquire. At this point, Dennis, if we can allow for on your session, if Q&A, if anybody has any question, would love to bring the microphone to you. Tell us your name, which institution or where you're coming from, and then you pose your question. And then obviously, I think we can take maybe up to, maybe I don't have to be restrictive, maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then we could, so that we can move forward with this conference. So you just show me your hand, and then I could bring the microphone over to you. And then for my, also as well, from my coordinators from the online viewers, if there are any questions from the online viewers, please, you can kindly send it in the chat. We are live on YouTube as well as the Zoom links that have been shared. So sorry, ma'am. So please, if anybody has any question, other than that, we have to move forward. All right, ma'am. Can I have, okay, very well. Let me just drop.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And that was indeed a very brilliant exposition, and this is a fantastic idea. My name is Ofebia, Ghana School of Law. I have two questions, very brief. First of all, how does Marrify or Marrify intend to populate all this data since it's coming from such different sources? And then secondly, on a lighter note, looking at the logo for Marrify, is it two interlinked chains or it's two hearts turned, upside down? Thank you.
I think with the first question, my colleague will come and deal with it on how to use it. We have institute portal that people can report on the logo part. Is it's a link of two hearts that have been put together, but that may also be easily unlocked depending on the situation. That's what the designer came up with. But these are the ideas from the design team. But the first question on the database, my colleague Lennon will address all the concerns on it. Yes. My senior is here.
Thank you for the good work. My name is Gloria Furibuedo. I'm president of FIDA, the International Federation of Women Lawyers. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. According to the population census, only 19.2% of every form of marriage, the three forms of marriages are registered. In the northern region, only 2% of marriages are registered. Is there a way we can increase registration with Marrify? Maybe a central organization, as you indicated, that will go house to house to register marriages. I'm just wondering so that we can increase the percentage.
I believe outside our scope, we can be able to work on it with RGD, but it comes with the involvement of the state. If you look at the budget we have for elections, okay, it tells you that where your mind is. Okay, as a country, our mind is not on family. That the data clearly shows in terms of our budgeting and stuff like that. But I agree with you that we can launch a campaign, and that has to involve the state, where the state properly funds people to go house to house to even acknowledge it. And how do we bring on board queen mothers? Okay, how do we bring on board churches? How do we bring on board everybody involved in it? But it also comes back down to how do we also restructure the administrative part of the marriage so that we make it more centralized. Okay, either we empower RGD or we set up a unique entity which will properly fund it. Because the DVLA office in Accra is the same DVLA you deal in Tamale or Bolga. And they have a mandate of now going around. You have seen an instance where ORC now, my sister there, is now going out as part of ORC week and registering businesses, even going to markets and try to register business and bring them on board. But come back again, ORC has more money than RGD. So it requires us to properly fund it. Okay. And I agree with you that we may have to go on a campaign where we can encourage people to register their marriages, even if it's customary marriage. But also one of the ways of ensuring registration of marriages is for the state to also insist on evidence of marriage in case you have applied for a job and you have to fill your marital status. So you request, if you say, I'm married, the state will say, can you present a marriage certificate to back it? Because issues of nest of kin and all these community. And once we start linking the database to your Ghana card, now we will get to see where you pop up one Ghana card and about 4 marriage certificates may pop up and we may decide to clean it. So this may be the strategies that some of my gender may not like, but I think that we are building a nation and our great grandfathers will ensure that we do a proper thing. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. It's a pleasure, having you, Mr. Dennis Ajejumo, answering these questions. And I get this more often than not, we started this forum, year one, the digitalization bit, and what comes out of it is always interesting. Yeah, so good questions and good responses. Lennon, you want to take the the other responses to the other question? All right, so please let's help welcome Lennon to help us to do. So he's Nicholas Lennon Anania J, and he's with the team, right?
A very good evening once again. The question of Fabia asked about whether it is two hearts that are linked or otherwise reminds me of something my uncle always says. He says, love is like a slipper, it can tear. So when two hearts interlinked, but a tear, then you have to turn it upside down. That's what it is. Thank you very much for being present here this evening with all of us. And coming up to this presentation, I decided to check out the average cost of a wedding in Accra presently. And sources on the internet suggest it is about 120,000 Ghana cedis. So to have a social wedding is about 120,000 Ghana cedis. So imagine spending 120,000 Ghana cedis, the beautiful kente, all the accessories that come with it. These days, they say they have what they call long wave body hair. That is what they use for the wedding hair and all of the things that come with it, only to be told that you are not married. By the way, the legal cost of marriage is still less than 2,000 Ghana cedis. 250 Ghana, yes. So to be legally married is about 250 Ghana cedis, but to be socially married, minimum 120,000 Ghana cedis in Accra. But that is the point of why we are here, that despite all these euphoric moments and what people like to characterize as the most important day of their life, there are serious pitfalls which, if you don't meet, you may do all of that and still not be legally married. And that is what Marrify represents here. My duty here is to simply take you through the app. So unlike the presenters before me, my session is not pre-recorded. I'm connected to the internet. You can get onto the website marrifyapp.com and follow, and we'll do a live demonstration of what the features of the app are and how they help fix the problems that Dennis has been elucidating over the past minutes. So start with, when you look at the first bar of the app, there are about 6 models up there. We have marriage records, have divorce records, you have marriage officers, marriage venues, licensed imams, and nomination. And when you look at marriage records, you're basically looking at being able to search whether any registration, whether it is customary, Islamic, or ordinance, exists in the name of a person or some other form. So when you go under marriage records, you can basically search anybody's name and figure out whether it's married. I think that this is actually an easier way to find out if your husband is cheating on you or if attracting married somewhere else. In any case, in the TikTok generation, it's the post of your husband, a picture of your or your boyfriend, and very easily you will know whether what you go or not. You will be found out very easily. But so you go under marriage records and you can simply do a search for any name. Because I don't want to prejudice anybody, I'll leave it automatically for the system to find out. And when you go down, you see you have Yeboah. So you have 223 marriage records here. Yeboah and Jemfi, Right and Lai, Wilhelmina. And when you open the record, it shows you where that marriage was done. It tells you in what year it was done, where the contracting was done, whether it was by ordinance, customary, Islamic. It gives you a record. Now, again, for data protection and privacy sake, so it is confined to those records that can be publicly available. The date, the name, so you don't have any personal identifiers in terms of residences or any of those. But at least the names, the identity of the persons are there. Now, under that, You can also apply the filters. So you can choose whether you want to select a particular year. Say you are looking for marriage records within 2016. So when a hint, say your husband has left the state and has come to Ghana to contract a marriage. When you do the mathematics, it's within the last 2 years. You can specifically search whether it is 2016, 2017, 2018. Maybe you know the region where the marriage was contracted. It was not in Greater Accra. He went to probably my hometown, Ahafo region. Just so, like they did in the other case, you get a divorce from Kwabeng District Court, even though all of you live in Accra. You can search particularly for the region to find out whether it is there. Now, location. You know it's a Catholic church. You know it is a Presbyterian church. It is a modern day church. You can find out. And when you drop down on any of the menus, you'll find that the whole list of those places where you can possibly register. Again, you have the type of marriage. So you can check for all types, or you can check for customary marriage, Islamic marriage, or any of the other kinds of marriages. The goal of this is to provide a one-stop shop where when you go with whatever little detail or identifier you have, you should be able to have some information regarding the marriage, whether it is there or not. And if it truly exists, you would have some record of it. Runs all the way from A to Z. So whether your surname starts with a Z or it starts with a B, we will definitely find you in there. And that is what the marriage records section does for you. Now, the divorce record section, which is the next, also does the same thing. Just that this time it is confined to divorce. Like Dennis says, we procure the order and we forget to do the registration. So here again, the goal is to make sure that if he tells you that I have one child, my wife has divorced me, and to prove the divorce, he has brought me the child to take care of the child. When you receive the certificate, you can go onto the Marrify app and confirm whether indeed that divorce is active. So again, what we have done for starters is to use those cases that have been done through the courts. So the courts reports on cases and divorces have been captured and recorded as divorces as recent as 2026. So my surname is Ajay. Let me see if any Ajay has been divorced quite recently. We don't easily divorce, by the way. We are good men. But so this is Ajay versus Ajay. It's a 2026 decision of the court where the court divorced. Now the record is there, and then when you open it, it shows you the parties that were involved. It tells you the year. It tells you which registry or authority granted the divorce, so that if you want to do a further follow-up to confirm, you can actually do a follow-up in that specific place to confirm. There's the certificate number as was issued as part of the record. So you have some specificity as far as the details that you are chasing up are concerned. And that is it for the divorce record section. It enables you again with whatever little information you have to do filters through, whether it is by region, whether it is by denomination, by year, to find out any record you can about whether a particular marriage has been dissolved by the courts or customarily or in any other form. It must be understood, as Dennis has earlier pointed out, that when it comes to registrations, in the case of Islamic marriages, registration is compulsory. In the case of customary marriages, if you elect to register your customary marriage, then you are also bound when you divorce to register the divorce. And this is to make sure that all of those data that exist in silos at the RGD, at the municipal assemblies, at the court registries are put together in a centralized database where any member of the public can, with a click of a phone, access it and then find the information useful. The third tab that is useful to us is the marriage officers. It has been highlighted in the earlier presentations that marriage is a social act, but it is also a legal act. And it is a legal act to the extent that the person who conducts the marriage must be legally licensed to conduct the marriage. And so what the marriage officer tab does is that it makes sure that you are able to confirm that your supremely anointed prophet or archbishop has a legal license to conduct the marriage that he is conducting. So when you come to marriage officers, you are able to search the person by their name, or you are able to search the person through the MMDAs by their church denomination. I have an uncle, Reverend Father. He's called the Dubois. Let's find out if he has a license to be conducting marriages. If he doesn't, before I report him to his bishop, he's a Catholic priest. Hey. Okay, 8 marriage officers with a Dubois. Oh, okay. So Reverend Father Emmanuel Dubois is listed down here as possessing a license. And when you open Reverend Father Emmanuel Dubois' tab, it tells you that Reverend Father Emmanuel Dubois is a marriage officer who is in the Goso Diocese in the Ahafo region, who was gazetted as a marriage officer on Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. And so before you go to that papa to bless your marriage, sit in your room and confirm that papa has a legal license. Other than that, papa will bless your marriage spiritually, but legally, you may end up having no standing before the courts. And so the marriage officers registry affords you that opportunity to do that confirmation. Aside the identities of the persons, there are also other tabs that you can use to confirm whether or not they are also properly licensed. And those other tabs include the churches that they attend, the other denominations, and all of those. Whatever you can find around that, you can use. The next thing is the marriage venues. Again, destination weddings are beautiful. Weddings in your churches are beautiful. But the question you ask yourself, what you go home, is it sufficient to do the destination wedding without the requisite license? And that is what the marriage venue tab allows you to look for. When you go, it entitles you to search whether by town, whether by region, whether by church, whether or not that particular venue is licensed as far as being a place that the marriage can be conducted. And when you do the drop down, you would find a tall list of churches. So you have Church of Pentecost, you have Presbyterian, you have Methodist, Church of Christ, Good Shepherd, you have the 37 Military Hospital Methodist Presbyterian Church, you have Greater Accra. It gives you a tall list of all churches that, properly speaking, are licensed under the law to conduct marriages. It also has a tall list of all MMDAs. So Achim Oda, Ashanti region. I come from Tano North. Let me see. Tano North Municipal Assembly. So when you go to Tano North Municipal Assembly, it would give you the list of all licensed venues within the Tano North Municipal Assembly that you'll be able to conduct marriages. So you have Righteousness Foundation from Jesus Christ, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints within the Tano North Municipal Assembly. So this tab again is to make sure that you meet the requirements of the law, that the venue where the marriage is celebrated is licensed by the law. And it is to make sure that you don't just, as my grandmother used to say, she always cautioned us that don't attend the church that you are older than. That was her caution. That if you are older than the church, don't attend the church. But even if you're older than the church and you want to attend the church and you want to celebrate your marriage there, it is prudent that you conduct a search using the Marrify app to find. And it also has all the denominations, whether it is Orthodox, whether it is Charismatic, whether it is Pentecostal, whether it is Mozambadisco, and as a Sunsuma, sorry, as we like to call it, those who wear all red and white, the Jaguaja type of church. All of them are captured over there. So it is in your interest to deploy the Marrify app so that you can find all the registered venues. We have several registered venues that has the statistics. Now, the interesting one is the licensed imams. And like Dennis pointed out, the reason it is interesting is because it appears that for a long time, imams have not been licensed to conduct Islamic marriages. In fact, we had to go back as far as 1886, coming down to find some of the earliest registered imams who are on the app. So currently, when you look, Alhaji Umaru, when you look at his record, was licensed as an Islamic priest Inoti region by G.C. Bodule sometime in 1932, particularly on February 10th, 1932. And so in recent times, it means that majority of Islamic marriages that have been conducted, regrettably, do not meet the standard of the law as far as the licensed priests who are supposed to conduct them are concerned. We hope that authorities will take notice of this and then see what they can do about it. And it also tells you the depth of work that the team has done, going back all the way to the 1880s, just to be able to. And all these gazettes exist, except that because they are paper, if you want to even confirm, somebody has to manually go through them to be able to find information for you. And that is why the Marrify app makes your life easier by digitizing that data, so that just by the search of a name, whether a name, any other feature, you can easily find it out. We also have the denomination, which gives a sense of the total numbers that are around. So under denomination, we are basically talking about the churches. And under churches, it gives you, for instance, within the Catholic churches, how many licensed priests there are within the Catholic churches. Which churches have the most licensed priests as far as their obligations or duties towards the celebration of marriages are concerned. So those are the first part of the tabs that we have. The search databases, which we have compiled for all these years, that enables you to ensure that your priest is licensed, your venue is licensed, to confirm whether there's an existing valid marriage or whether there has been a dissolution of that marriage. As was asked particularly in relation to how we intend to keep this populated, we've had institutional partners, as have been mentioned. We have the Ghana Publishing Company that has the historical data on the gazettes and public notices, and they basically have been the repository of all the licensed priests and then churches and all of that. And then we also have the Registrar General's Department, who are, properly speaking, the custodian of all civil ordinance marriages within Ghana. Now, to help the population, what we have done is to create portals for the relevant agencies that form part of the ecosystem. So the RGD has a portal where they can log on to and upload their records. All the MMDAs have a portal where they can log on to and upload their system. And then the other stakeholders also have the opportunity to form part of that system and then upload their relevant. So you have the courts. There are also portals for the courts, so that if a court grants a divorce, the registrar or whoever is in charge of the court can log on to the portal and then make the records into it. But the one I find most interesting about the population is the self-reporting. And for me, the reason I find that the most important feature is that it puts the power in your hands to make sure that your interest is secured. And what the self-reporting does is that when there's a dissolution or when you contract a marriage, it allows you the opportunity to fill in the necessary particulars, provide the necessary evidence, and once you provide the evidence and it is confirmed and verified by the Marrify team, then they can admit it. So under self-reporting, you can submit marriage records or you can submit divorce records. Whether it is a registered civil marriage, whether it's a traditional customary marriage, or whether it is an Islamic marriage, or even an international marriage. If you've contracted a marriage, say in the United States, it allows you to log on to the portal and submit the relevant information and particulars, so that tomorrow, nobody tell somebody that you are not divorced or you are not married when you know that you are either married or you are divorced. So we encourage the populace, self-report. If you have a marriage certificate, pick the certificate, self-report, fill in the details so that you can help populate it and also protect your own interest assets. Now, beyond the population, we all know that this is a public interest cause. Nobody is funded this. It is entirely a team that has come together who are seeing how best they can help remedy this problem or crisis of database within our marriage system. And so we again have a tab on the portal that allows persons who are committed to this public spirited activity donate and contribute to sustain it. Because to maintain this portal and to maintain the registry, it costs money. It is actually why a lot of these things don't get done, because people don't want to commit the time or the resources or the money to actually build it. Imagine if somebody has to be combing across the country to be reminding all of these silo registries to keep updating the portal, to keep uploading registry. Somebody has to be following up to be doing the verifications when you self-report. So you have the opportunity to contribute to maintaining the system and making sure the system runs. And you can do so either through the popular mobile money that is readily available these days, or through the bank system. If you have a bank card, you can also do that. The final crucial feature of the Marrify app is what we call the family law AI. We all know that artificial intelligence is in vogue, but what the Marrify team has done is to specifically train an artificial intelligence on Ghanaian family law. And so you can ask the artificial intelligence questions relating to positions or things like that within Ghanaian family law, and they would be able to provide you information that is relevant. Mind you, this is not a substitute for legal advice. The bar must still prosper. And so when the matters, do engage lawyers and seek advice. But it serves as a good starting point to understanding your issues and your positioning relative to the law and the matters. So for instance, if you go onto the app and there's a young man who you've contracted or you intend to contract marriage with, and after committing your life to him for 10 years, he has decided he no longer wants to do the marriage, and you're asking yourself, what are my legal remedies? I've moved my town, I've avoided all of this. So you ask the app, for instance, say, breach of promise to marry. So you have breach of promise to marry. Breach of promise to marry. The family law AI app can tell you what breach of promise to marry is. It can give you cases and authorities in support of breach of promise to marry in the past. Live cases, I mean, cases that have been done that you can actually relate to, and not just cases that go. When you look to your extreme right, you see there's a list of authorities there. Breach of promise to marry, implications for breach of promise to marry. You have the popular cases of a FIFA versus Class Peters. You have Indian versus Kenfo. And so it becomes a good starting point to understanding what your legal position is as far as matters affecting your family law relationship is concerned. You don't know how to go about a divorce process. It's a good place to start. Then you can transition to paying a lawyer to handle your brief. You don't know how to go about your divorce. It is a good place to start. So the Marrify app has a family law AI trained particularly on Ghanaian family law authorities and case law that assists you in that regard. And so it helps you. Now, what we hope to do in the future as we move along is to perhaps have a system that incorporates the legal requirements into the app. So for instance, we could perhaps have a digital publication of bans, so that if a church is announcing bans, the bans can be published on the app. Then anybody wherever in the world can see it, and even perhaps enable you to file caveats or objections through the app. So that if you are in the US and you find out that the marriage is being contracted in Ghana against your interest, you can file an objection and you go straight to the church that is publishing the bans or to the registry that is publishing the bans, and they can properly act on it and prevent it from happening. That is what we hope to do moving on into the future. Now, what we want to highlight is that this app is not intended to undermine any pastor, any church, any form of marriage, or any organization. Because like we have said, there's a real issue to deal with in terms of the validity of a lot of marriages that have been contracted because of their failure to meet the legal requirements. What we hope this app does is to help organizations and individuals align their administration of marriage with the legal requirements, so that if you're a church, you know that these are the things you have to meet in order to properly contract marriages in the eyes of the law. If you are licensed, if you are an imam or you're a pastor, you know you have to meet the legal requirements to be able to contract the law. And that is why we have before us. Can you please project that final image for me so that I bring my presentation to a conclusion? Now, to tell you the extent of work that the team has done, this is a government gazette from about 1886 listing licensed persons who are licensed, and then places and venues where you can contract marriages. And we have gone all the way back to that time and digitized all of those records into the Marrify app, all the way back to the 18s. So that regardless of what the record is, where the record is, you can trust Marrify that with a click, you can either confirm, dispute, or find out whether there is a valid marriage, a valid divorce, whether your papa is properly licensed, or whether your church premises has a proper license to be celebrating marriages. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. We can do better for Lennon. It's been interesting listening to you and going through the Marrify app. Thank you once again, Nicholas, Lennon, Anania J, for this introduction to the Marrify app. I think that I'd want to crave the indulgence of the media, team. At this point, I just want to add my voice to this to make a statement. So if Akosia is here or even Mary is here, you want to put me on this video so I can share directly with the chief of staff and obviously my sister, gender minister, who left us quite shortly. I think it's important that we note this, good job that Marry Rights Ghana is doing in respect of this space. And we can all tell, and as they've mentioned, there is a contribution part on the portal where you can contribute. But beyond societal contributions and all that, I want to personally, as part of the Marriage Governance Conference, move, and we are not in Parliament, but I want to move for that. The government of the day vote some amount or some funds to the registry as well as Marry Rights Ghana, so that we can embark on this, good job that we're doing, because it takes a lot of time, and I'm surprised that we've been able to put on a portal right up to data to the 18th. So please, I think that the media team should populate this up. I want to beacon the President of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and the Minister of State in charge of Gender, Children and Social Protection to take this up, even if it means we moving for Parliament to, vote for some amount so that we can support this. Because I think that in my own, when I sat and I listened to this over the period, I think that it is the responsibility of the state to ensure that we have such a database. And I was checking on, some database for my father in the UK. He passed a couple of years. And when I was engaging them, they have such an app. So it's not new to me. And it's the British government that, has put up this app. It's like the Birth and Death Registry right up to, many, many years. So we don't have it in Ghana. Marry Rights Ghana has started this. And I think that it's the sole responsibility of the state to push this and to fund this, whilst we also engage all of us in the, society to also contribute. So please, the message should go across. And please clip this video for me. I'll share it personally with Honorable Julius Debra, my brother and friend. Thank you very much. At this point, I want to ask if there are any questions for Lennon, to answer for us. But if not, I think we can move over to the next thing. Please permit me to do this few acknowledgements that have come over. And for my team that is coordinating the online session, please, if there are any questions or any contributions from that, you can let me know, and then I'll be ready to share it for us. Right. So I want to acknowledge. Just give me a moment, please. I think I must have missed this. Yeah, so I want to acknowledge, if she is still here with us, Abdul Aziz Osang. He is a chairman of the La Muslim community. Please, can you give us a wave? Let's give him a round of applause. Abdul Aziz Osang for joining us at this year Marriage Governance Conference 2026, which is happening here live from GIMPA. Right at this point, please let me also acknowledge the presence of Irene, and I hope I get this right, Irene Ashai, who is the Deputy Director for the Council of State. If she's still here, please, can I have a wave? Right. Irene Ashai, Deputy Director for the Council of State. Okay, very well. I think that these are just a few dignitaries that we want to acknowledge right at this moment. Please, I want to also acknowledge our partners over the years, our partners and our sponsors and our supporters for the Marriage Governance Conference. Over the past 3 years, we've been holding this. So at this point, we want to acknowledge our first partner, that is Ghana Publishing Company Limited. Thank you very much, sir, for supporting us right through till now. Thank you. We really appreciate your partnership. We also want to acknowledge the partnership of the Registrar General's Department. Thank you very much, Registrar General's Department. We also want to acknowledge the partnership of the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice. Thank you for your partnership. And we want to also acknowledge the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA Law School. Thanks for your partnership. Last but not the least on the partnership list is MX24 TV. MX24 TV, thank you very much for this partnership. And now to our sponsors, we want to acknowledge our sponsors. We want to acknowledge Maranatha Oil Services Limited. Thank you, Maranatha Oil Services. And we want to also acknowledge ChemSolve. ChemSolve, thank you very much. We want to acknowledge also Junipay for your sponsorship, and then Jewel Energy for your partnership of this Marriage Governance Conference 2026. Thank you very much. At this point, we should be drawing, close to this Marriage Governance Conference and obviously the official launch of the Marrify app 2026. We'll take, and I want to crave the indulgence of the technical team just to do me this honest, to just give me a short musical interlude. I'll come back and then we'll wrap it up with the closing remarks and vote of thanks. Thank you. But for those of us who are still back, please, can you kindly join us so that we can officially bring this event to a finality? At this point, please help me welcome no other than my own sister, Lois Dankwa, to give us the closing remarks and the vote of thanks. Let's give her a round of applause, Lois.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Marrify Ghana, we'd like to say a very big thank you to our distinguished dignitaries and to everyone that made it here for the launch of our Marrify app. We appreciate the time taken off your busy schedules to make it to the program. We also thank God for a successful program and for bringing us to this day. We want to say a very big thank you to the team that made Marrify possible and for their hard work and dedication towards the making of Marrify app. Marrify app is here to stay and to help protect marriages in Ghana. And God bless our homeland Ghana, and God bless everyone present here. And may we all have a very good use for the Marrify app. And yep, we want to make sure that all marriages in Ghana are valid and have legal basis. So yes, Marrify app is here to stay permanently. Thank you all.
We can do better for Lois. I mean, I can tell you on authority that public speaking ain't easy. I mean, I've been doing public speaking for the last 25 years, obviously, so it's not easy. So, Lois, thank you very much for your yep. I like the yep comment. I would have to be learning that from you. Right, Lois, thank you very much once again. At this point, please, we're coming to a closure on this year's Marriage Governance Conference 2026 and also the launch of the official launch of the Marrify app. To help us do the closing prayer, please help me welcome the rep from Marrify Ghana Limited, Erajua Lisa Caesar. What a name. Wow. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes. Gorgeous Erajua Lisa Caesar. I hope I got it right. Right, I did. So Erajua is going to give us the closing prayer. And then just after we're done, please, we are not leaving. We want to take an official photograph for everybody, just like we do for all the conferences each year. We put together. So the photographers, you might have to maybe we'll have to come up on stage, all of us, so that we can do the official photographs so we can populate it on our socials. Thank you very much, Erajua.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So before we head out, shall we bow down our heads and pray? Heavenly Father, thank you for this successful product launch, for bringing us together today. We commit this product, our team, and our future into your hands. May you bless our efforts, guide our decisions, and grant us continued success. As we leave, keep us safe and bring us back next year, 2027. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Now that's our very reverend lady. I'm giving you this title. Erajua Lisa Caesar has done the closing prayer. I just want to officially bring down the curtain to this year's Marriage Governance Conference 2026 and the official launch of the Marrify app. Please log on to the Marrify app and then verify your marriage or the divorce. It's been myself, MC Prince Charles, as usual, the world's best MC to have handled this for you. And like I always say, for the last 3 years, see you sometime next year for the Marriage Governance Conference 2027. I want to acknowledge, the help of, Triune God for taking us through all these years. 3 stands for Trinity. So I want to thank God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit for taking us right through from year 1 till today. Thank you and have a wonderful night. We'll see you sometime next year. Right. So please, let's kindly, and thanks to everybody who made possible to be here with us, and also for our online viewers, it's a pleasure to have had you online. So please kindly, let's put ourselves together and take there. All right. Okay. So I am, my boss, is suggesting that, we take the shot this way. So the official photographers, please, you have to help us out. If we're going to do, in a row, maybe 2 rows or something like that. Yeah.